Well, welcome to part 2 in our series, all about how you can hopefully survive the lockdown from a financial perspective. We've really tried to encourage you in part 1 to set up a survival strategy to get through the lockdown period. I know many of you have taken a hit financially during this period. It is important that we batten down the hatches and that we put a process in place. Now, in part 1, just as a quick recap, we looked at a financial survival plan during lockdown and we recommended that you ensure you've got ample cash flow. We looked at the importance of setting up a reserve or a contingency fund. We also looked at the concept that you can make use of the government relief strategies that have been put in place. Chat to your accountant or tax practitioner for more information on that. We've also tried to encourage you to make use of the payment relief options that various banks have rolled out. I've also tried to encourage you to stop the non-essential payments for this season until you get back on your feet. We've looked at investing, stating that it's important that you stick to your long-term strategy, that you've got money set aside for short-term needs, but that you let your long-term money grow. And lastly, what we did last week is we tried to encourage you also to live the simple life. The best things in life are free. Now, what I want to do today is I want to encourage you to look forward. I know that everything is down at the moment, but I want to say this: you can still choose to be up when everything is down. And I know it's easy to get despondent when you look at all the crazy things going on, but I really want to invite you or encourage you during your isolated period to dare to dream, to look forward and to set things up for the opportunity that will arise once this storm has passed. So today, I want to encourage you to look up even when things are down. Remember that after the storm, the sun will shine again. And I saw an incredible quote earlier this week. It says, when all of this ends, and it will, it says, all of a sudden the stadiums will once again be sold out. The restaurants will have queues and they'll be full. Even children will be grateful to be able to go back to school. You and I might enjoy our jobs and be a bit more grateful for those things. When all of this ends, we'll once again be able to hug and embrace, and we'll be able to celebrate that we got through this storm. So today I want to really encourage you to hang on in there and to look forward and to attempt great things, to have vision, to have a purpose outlook, and to be filled with hope for what your future holds. I also need to encourage you to keep your head up while everything is down at the moment. And I want to remind you to have 2020 vision during this difficult time. It's easy to get stuck up in the doom and gloom of lockdown, but I want to encourage you to take a step back and to see the big picture. This storm will pass and the sun will shine again. So during lockdown, during your time in isolation, why don't you review your financial affairs? Why don't you set some goals for the future? What does it say in the Proverbs? It says, happiness that is deferred makes the heart sick, but when dreams come true, there is life and there is joy. So dare to dream, aim high, and have a 2020 vision. And so I want to encourage you today to reflect. Look back. What has worked? What can you learn out of lockdown? What can you apply to your life when lockdown ends that you can possibly take forward? Have a look and be honest. Reflect what has worked, what hasn't worked, and make some necessary adjustments to the way you manage your money and the way you possibly live your life. Secondly, I would encourage you to review. Go have a look at your bank statements. I promise you they do not lie. Have a look at where you've got spending leaks in your budget. It's important that you review your spending, that you also review your budget. Why don't you stop those leaks that are possibly stealing your money? You know, a couple of weeks ago, I had a tire on my car that every morning was slightly flat. And eventually I had to take it through to the tire fitment center. What did they do? They checked the tire out, and what did they find? They found a nail that it was in my tire. And as soon as they removed the nail and put a plug in there, you know what happened? The next morning, my tire wasn't flat again. So plug those spending leaks. Sometimes our money can just almost seem to evaporate. It might feel like you've got a pocket full of holes, like a hole in your wallet. Sometimes we can plug those gaps, those spending leaks, by just reviewing our money matters. So use your time in isolation to review those finances and to see what options you can do or what changes you can make to set yourself up for a more fruitful financial future as time goes on. I also want to encourage you to put a roadmap in place. Why don't you take a fresh look at what your goals and your dreams are? Maybe you need to set up a date night with your wife or with your husband. Yeah, you might have to use the kitchen or the little patio on the stoep, but go sit down and go and have a chat about your goals and your dreams. It's important to have 2020 vision. When everything is down, it's time for you also to rise up and reassess. Set yourself up for the opportunities that will arise out of this lockdown. So when you take a look at where you are, to be honest with yourself, where are you at the moment as a family? What is going on with your finances? And what can you put in place to get you from where you are to where you want to be? I would really encourage you, take an honest look where you are and put a plan in place. Proverbs 29:18 says, where there is no vision, it says, my people perish. Another version says, where there is no vision, my people just run wild. So put a plan in place. You can seriously set yourself up for a blessed future if you get some 2020 vision during this time. Why don't you dare to dream? Why don't you decide to set some goals for your future? A very simple technique, if you want to set some goals during lockdown, is ask yourself these 3 questions. The first one is what? What is it that you want to achieve? Then ask yourself the why. The why will help you to clarify what goals are really important for you. And then the how. So the what do you want to achieve? The why, then the how. The how is the plan of getting you from where you are to where you want to be. I must just also add this. It's important to write down your goals. Something incredible happens when you write down your goals. I remember when Janet and I were first married just over 20 years ago, we sat down in our little flat and we wrote out all our goals. I remember someone telling me, be specific when you set your goals. And that's exactly what we did. We wrote down the car we wanted. We wrote what we wanted to do, where we wanted to live, what children we wanted. What happened after we wrote those things down is I folded up the piece of paper and I forgot about it. Around 10 years later, when we moved home, I was packing books into a bookshelf, and between 2 books, this discolored piece of paper fell out. And on that discolored piece of paper were the goals that we had set 10 years earlier. Now, guess what? Every single one of those goals had come to pass. Something powerful happens when you write down your goals. It reminds me of a story from Harvard in the 70s. Apparently, one of the professors got half his class to stay in after school and to write down their goals. The other half were able to leave early. And basically what the story goes is that the professor then collected the papers of what people have written down, what their ambitions and what they wanted to achieve in the future. And all he did was archive it. 20 years later, the same professor went back to those notes and he took a look at those that had written down their goals. Apparently 80% of those that had written down their goals ended up achieving beyond their wildest dreams. The guys who hadn't written down their goals, well, according to the article, only 20% of them ended up reaching their goals. What's the moral of the story? I want to encourage you, write down your goals. Dare to dream, aim high, set yourself up. Ask yourself, what is it that I want to achieve? Why do I want to achieve it? And then put the how in place. That's the roadmap. That's the plan to get from where you are to where you want to be. To me, there is one more ingredient that you can apply to your goal setting, and that is invite God to be part of the process. I'm telling you, He wants to walk the journey with you. He is interested in you, and He wants to see you flourish. Listen to what it says in Proverbs 16 verse 3. It says, commit your work to the Lord. Commit your work to the Lord, and it says, and your plans will succeed. So, yeah, take that safety first strategy, but also don't forget to have some 2020 vision. Dare to dream, aim high. Use this lockdown period to seriously go after your dreams and put the processes in place so that you can flourish and be fruitful when the storm finishes. Finally, today, I also want to just encourage you to make the most of every opportunity that is going to come out of this storm. This too shall pass. And once the storm finishes, the sun will shine again. So during these unprecedented, crazy times, I know it's easy to get negative, to panic, and to live in fear. During these times, you might be tempted to cash in your long-term investments when you see the downgrades and the currency sliding and the volatility in the markets. But I want to encourage you, don't cash in those investments. Wait for the markets to recover. Markets go through dips, they go through troughs, they go through peaks. And after a big fall, they normally recover. Once the storm passes, I think there are going to be some incredible opportunities that are going to arise out of the storm. So set yourself up and make the most of these opportunities that will arise. A well-known asset manager from one of the big unit trust companies in South Africa a couple of weeks ago made a comment which has stuck with me. He said he thinks that out of this coronavirus, we are going to see one of the greatest investment opportunities in a generation that's going to be available to you and I. I know our president also said, look forward, there are going to be some awesome opportunities that arise out of this crisis. I don't know if you're aware of it, but in Chinese, apparently the symbol for the word crisis consists of two symbols. There's a symbol of danger, which basically says in the middle of a crisis, you should batten down the hatches and take a protective stance. And then there's also the other symbol, which is opportunity. And opportunity is that out of the crisis, out of the storm, incredible opportunities arise. So make the most of those opportunities that will arise out of the storm. I really want to ask you, keep your eyes open. Don't look down during lockdown. It's time to look up, and it's time to look up and to look to God. Position yourself for those opportunities that will arise out of the storm. It is not a time to panic. It is a time to look forward. And remember this, what it says in Deuteronomy 8 verse 18. It says, remember the Lord your God. It is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth. God is for you, and He can help you through. He's got your back, and He will see you through. I really hope that you will try and apply one or two of the principles we've looked at today. Remember, take a safety first strategy. Make certain your cash flow is taken care of. Set up that cash relief. Make use of the government reliefs. Cut those unnecessary expenses. Cut the non-essentials. And make certain that you live the simple life and live within your means. I promise you, you can get through this. Also, don't forget to look up, to dare to dream, and to have some 2020 vision, and make the most of every opportunity that will arise out of this really crazy time. You know, it's Psalm 32 verse 8. God says this in the New Living Translation. He says, I will guide you on the best pathway for your life. I will advise you and I will watch over you. Proverbs 46:1 says it like this: God is our refuge and our strength. He is our ever-present help in times of trouble. I want to encourage you, know that God has your back. Know that He will guide you on the best pathway for your life. Know that He is your ever-present help in times of trouble. Bo Bennett said the following. He says, as sure as spring will follow winter, so prosperity and economic recovery will follow recession. Remember this, the sun will rise again. So put your hope in God. And don't forget to look up even when everything is down. Proverbs 22:3, we looked at it earlier. A prudent person foresees the danger and takes precautions. The simple just goes blindly on and suffers the consequences. I really want to encourage you, be wise. When you look at the danger, take the necessary precautions. You can set up a survival plan. You can wait patiently for the storm to pass. After the storm, the sun will shine again. So hold on to God and look up.